Perfect. Well, good morning. On behalf of Kelsey and I, we both want to thank Unlin for inviting us here, and we're excited to present. And so hopefully we can go 2 for 2 with no muffins. But I can't promise. So with that, I'm Todd Reed. I'm with MetLife. I've been with MetLife for a little bit over 3 years now. Our presentation today, as Travis alluded to, is on our trend study. So every year, this is the 17th annual. MetLife partners with a third party, so it's an unbiased trend study where we survey employers, employees, and brokers to get more of an idea on the landscape of the benefit landscape. So I'll turn over to Kelsey to introduce yourself and we can jump in.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelsey Riley. I work alongside Todd at MetLife as an account executive, and we're really excited to have you all here today and thankful for Unlin for including us in this. So hopefully we can give you some insight into what employees and employers as well as brokers are seeing in the marketplace today.
Perfect. So as we jump in, I'm going to leave you with this question to kind of think about as we go through. So if companies are investing in their physical infrastructure to adapt to new ways of working, should they also be looking at their benefit strategy? And if so, what would that look like? So with today's table of contents, we'll go through today's benefit landscape, benefits for the modern employer, what attracts employees, financial wellness, and then I'll turn it over to Kelsey to wrap up with working remote and career path. So with today's benefit landscape, so you'll see a couple themes here throughout our presentation, and I'll touch on two and then I'll turn it over to Kelsey to touch on one. So one of them that I'm sure you are all aware of is that we are always on. So we have entered a technological shift that allows us to be connected at all times. So I'm sure everyone has a cell phone, a laptop, something of some sort. So even though you may be leaving the office, you're still connected to do work at all times. And then the other thing that you'll see, and I'm sure all of you are very well aware of, is the generational differences. So normally, you're used to 1 or 2, maybe generations in the workforce. Right now, we're looking at 4 or 5. So with that is different employees at different times of life with different needs.
Yeah, and another macro trend that we've been seeing over the years and is not going anywhere is the gig economy. So whereas years ago, employees would start off in their employment path and would stay at one company for the length of their careers, right? But today we're seeing that employees are hopping around more than they used to. So with unemployment being so low, we know that employees are going somewhere. So employers are attracting employees, but they're hopping around a lot. So what this trend study is going to help us see is how do we help retain those employees? Because we want to keep the talent in one place, but it's becoming more and more of a challenge as this gig economy becomes more prevalent in the market.
So with that, benefits offer peace of mind. So throughout the survey, 87% of respondents told us that the benefits they received in the workplace provided them with peace of mind, while 71% worried less about health and financial issues because of the workplace benefits. So throughout that, and with the age we're in of high deductible health plans, consumers need additional protection. So 65% of the respondents told us that the non-medical benefits such as accident and critical illness insurance help them limit their out-of-pocket expenses. So I'll pause there and kind of get the thought going for the employers in the room. Have you offered accident or critical illness? Is it something that you're aware of? This is something to kind of keep in the back of your mind. So then with that, obviously benefits drive satisfaction. So benefits continue to be a high driver of satisfaction within the workplace. Our study looked at the drivers and said that loyalty would decrease by 71% if the employer stopped offering critical benefits. So I think that's kind of a substantial stat there that employees are willing to leave. As Kelsey kind of mentioned, there's other places to go now if the benefits are not up to their standards.
Yeah, and one other thing that I'll point out is that 55%. So employees today are expecting to get those non-traditional benefits more often than they used to. So whereas before employees were expecting the core benefits, life, health, all of those, now they're expecting some of those non-traditional. So maybe some financial wellness, legal plans, things like that. It's becoming more prevalent that it's just an expectation of employees these days.
So choice provides a safety net. So we know that employees want the benefits to work for them, and it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So this goes back to the fact there's 4 to 5 different generations now in the workforce, so people are going to need different things. Someone that's looking at retiring within the next 5 years is going to be looking at different benefits than someone that is just starting out within the first 5 years. And so with our study, we found that employees are willing to take a small pay cut, 3.6% on average, to have more choices. In fact, 83% of employees would agree with that. And then the other interesting note with this slide is 60% are interested in having a wider variety of benefits available to them, even if that means they have to purchase them on their own. So now we're looking at making sure we're even offering these even on a voluntary basis, but the employees want the choice and they're willing to pay for it. So benefits reduce stress. I think everyone in the room here could agree, except for the ones that administer it, if I'm right. But the employees, they do trust their employers, and they value the option to purchase products that limit their financial exposure. So purchasing through an employer does provide simplicity, as it eliminates the need to research carriers and the extra time that is associated with them.
Yeah, and just if I could point something else out on this slide, about a third of the coverages listed as reducing stress for employees on this slide go towards that non-traditional coverage that we were talking about, with that 55% of expectations from employees today.
So with that, we'll get into benefit design for the modern employer. So as we go through this section, again, I'd like to keep in the back of mind, what are you currently doing to educate the employees or your employees? This is going to be kind of centered around communication and education. So as you'll see with the theme here, for the employer's top benefit objectives in 2018, is no longer sufficient enough for employers to offer the benefits. But now employees are hoping and looking for enrollment and education and communication to make sure they not only understand the benefit, but they know how to use the benefit. So employers have an opportunity to optimize the enrollment experience. So if you're looking at the slide here, 73% of employees told us that they feel they made the right decision, which you would think is great. However, 51% said they're still worried if it's enough coverage, and 44% have felt stressed by making the enrollment decisions. So over half are worried that they didn't make the right decision. It can be worrisome at times, for sure. So this leads for an opportunity to connect with employee needs. So insurance is overly complicated, as we all know, but communicating the benefits of the product should not be. So if we look at the chart here, you'll see some communication scenarios and how well employees understood the message. So I think it's interesting to point out the top one here, that 65% of the employees surveyed said they understand how much they would pay for the benefit. So they don't necessarily understand the benefit, but at least they understand how much they're willing to pay for it. So I still think this kind of points out that there is a gap of education for the employees. So employees do need enrollment support. So employees prefer to seek out benefit information on their own terms, either through a handbook or talking to an employer. So if you'll take a look here, I think this is kind of interesting. So the dark blue is employees viewing as effective, the green is employers as effective, and then the light blue is employers currently offering. So when you look at the benefit handbook, 79% of employers viewing it feel that it's effective. But what's kind of surprising is only 46 are offering it. So there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect somewhere along the line. So when we ask which tools are effective, the gap is narrowing. However, there still continues to be a disconnect of what employees and employers view as effective student learning. And with this slide, it's rather interesting. I know I touched on it, that we're always connected. But if you look down here at the bottom, you'll see where the technology is still not making an impact. In fact, most people don't view it as effective because they want one-on-one or they want to be able to look at it themselves. So with that, the gap still exists. So as we looked at the last slide, 73% of employees value provider benefit sites and 68% of employers value the benefit site. However, as you can see, only 34% are actually offering the provider benefit site. So there is, again, the disconnect of what is effective versus what is actually offered, and why is that? So with that, employers do need support as well. So as benefit experts, you are often sought out to provide recommendations beyond benefits. Employers are looking to you for more advice on solutions to round out their complete benefit offering. So as you can see, it's more than just your insurance broker that's communicating this. So if you're not talking about it, somebody else might. As 78% of employers surveyed were impacted by at least one of these 6 partners. So communication is, almost, if not as important as the benefits that are being offered now. So what attracts employees? As Kelsey mentioned, the unemployment rate is at an all-time low. So what are you doing to make sure you get the right employees and then keep them? So you'll see a theme here throughout this section, and it's flexibility with increased satisfaction. So 72% of employees say that they have the option to work remote. Is important to their work-life balance. The majority of these employee respondents said that working from home makes them feel that their employer trusts them. So you'll see throughout this, a lot of people the main theme with this section is going to be the work-life balance and how can it be perfected between the employer and the employee. And then, obviously, we want to increase loyalty. So it shouldn't be too much of a surprise, but employees who have harmonized between work life and home life are satisfied, engaged, and more loyal to their employees. And then, obviously, more loyalty will have the employers reap the benefits. So when the study asked employees about career development and advancement opportunities, 74% said it increased company loyalty. While when the study asked about access to training that helps build the skill set for the future, 73% said it increased productivity. So now we're getting out of doing the 9-to-5 job, but employees are wanting to feel valued, wanting to bring more to the company, and wanting to better themselves, which I think is a testament to the employees and where we're headed. So with the skill enhancement and flexibility, increased productivity. So as I just kind of mentioned, you'll see on this slide, 2 of the top 4 drivers of productivity, the ability to work from home and then training that helps build skills for the future. So employees are wanting flexibility to be able to work when they want, but also wanting to better themselves for the future, which as an employer should excite you that you have the right employees. So how do employees find success and fulfillment in their careers? Employees are asking more from their employers, and their demands are not just monetary or on the fringe of benefit. In fact, employees are asking for what reflects who they are. So 63% of employees surveyed said that they are on the same page as their company in terms of vision, values, and purpose. So I would ask, do you think that's accurate, low, or high for you to think about? I would say that's probably right about average for what you would think with employees, and obviously hoping that that percent of 63% is only going to go up from here. So empower employees to navigate and thrive in the workforce. Again, as we've kind of touched on, our study tells us that 73% of employees feel a strong sense of purpose at work, which I think is incredible and is only going to continue to grow, with 60% saying saying the work they do defines who they are. So now there's a little bit of pride taken into the work. And then interestingly enough, I kind of found this probably the most interesting stat, is 64% said that their work skills will make them a better person in their personal life. So that's where it's carrying over between the work-life balance and why everyone is taking so much pride in their work to better them as also a person.
And that goes back to being always on. It seems as though our work is becoming more and more integrated with our day-to-day lives. So it's just that integration is so important to employees. So being able to communicate, the benefits of total compensation that they're receiving is an important piece of that.
So benefit objectives for the future. So the top benefit objectives today will be the ones for the future. So as you can see with the common themes that we've been touching on, it's going to be controlling benefit costs, the retaining of employees, and then the attracting of the top talent, as well as increasing employee productivity. So again, as Kelsey spoke to, this is how do we keep the right employees and then get the right employees over to work for us. So with that, we'll see how our employers are addressing their employees' top concerns, specifically centered around financial wellness. So I would ask, as we're going through this section, to think about what are you currently doing around financial wellness, if anything, and is it personalized or is it kind of a catch-all? Because we'll find out here shortly. With this, as we look into financial wellness being top of mind for employees, I know everyone, the theme of the benefit landscape is wellness, wellness, wellness. Well, it's not just health wellness, but now we also have financial wellness. So with 85% of employees saying they feel in control of their finances is important to peace of mind, and 1 of 3 employees are less productive at work because of financial worries. So as we touched on a little bit earlier, benefits, as much as they are to help provide for certain things, they're also a peace of mind benefit for employees. And so not having financial wellness will kind of decrease the productivity. So employers acknowledge that it is their responsibility, which is great. So 68% of employers recognize that their employees are looking to them for more help in achieving financial security throughout the benefits offer. So I'm going to read you a stat that I think is shocking, scary. You decide. But 44% of adults say that they could not either cover an emergency expense costing $400. That's rather worrisome. So that's where the peace of mind and the productivity is all going to drop off if someone can't cover $400. And so obviously with that, employees are anxious. So this is where we need to be able to look and help our workforce with respect to short-term and long-term goals. Again, this speaks to the difference in the generations, with obviously people look much closer to retirement are going to have much more short-term goals than people that are just starting out looking for long-term goals. So with 4 to 5 different generations, it's a lot harder to make sure we're catching all of the employees. And so with that, again, kind of reiterating the stat, 71% of employees are concerned about having an emergency fund for unforeseen bills that may come up. So that, again, kind of supports the 44% that feel they don't have the $400. And so, how's the best way to communicate the financial wellness? So when we talk about finances, it's obviously deeply personal. So it should not be a surprise that employees still consider one-on-one meetings valuable when discussing options that impact their wallet. However, the concern here should be the gap between 53% of employees that are hoping to offer it, while only 29% of employers are offering it as far as the one-on-one personal meeting. So there's a little bit of a disconnect between the employer's expectations and the employees.
And the one-on-one meetings, I actually found kind of surprising that it was the top most effective piece that employees were identifying. Just because we live in such a digital age, you'd think people just want to go online and click through, but you can't beat the white glove one-on-one interaction that you get with someone when you're speaking and having a conversation around benefits, because people want to know what they're receiving and feel that they're making an empowered decision when choosing their benefits.
So obviously, what's the payoff for employers who provide financial wellness? So what's the return on investment for providing these services to your employees? Obviously, as the theme has kind of come about here, you will see an uptick in attraction, retention, and productivity within your workforce. When we asked employees, an overwhelming 84% would like some type of summary that explains their current state of finances. But again, pointing out this gap, only 18% of the employers surveyed offered some type of program like that. So there's a gap that needs to come down and shrink. So with that, the financial concerns are a focus killer. So as we've kind of touched on, employers who are concerned about driving productivity in the workplace should consider the role of financial wellness in their overall benefits. Again, so here you'll see 31% of employees feel less productive at work because of the financial worry, while 57% say financial wellness impacts productivity. So as you can see, the peace of mind is directly correlated with the productivity for the employees. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kelsey and let her take us home.
Thanks, Todd. No muffins yet, so I hope we're doing okay over here. So I know that Todd alluded to it a bit ago, but we're going to talk about working from home and what employees are looking for with that regard. So Todd alluded to it in the beginning of the presentation, but employees are seeing that in order to create a better work-life balance, the ability, or at least the option, to work from home is important for them in creating that balance. And beyond that, they also see it as a way of fostering trust from their employer. Just because they're allowing them to work off-site, it does actually foster some sense of trust between the two. So we see that almost 3 out of 4 employees agree with the statement that the flexibility to work from home allows for a more healthy work-life balance. But employers don't necessarily agree with that. So again, speaking to that gap, that's been a common theme throughout this presentation, is that there's a bit of a difference between what employees are seeing and wanting versus what employers think that their employees want. So what employers are seeing more often than not is, or what they think that they're seeing, is that the collaboration among peers is only fostered in the physical workplace, whereas only a little over half of the employees agree with that statement. So I mentioned earlier that we are living in a digital age, so working from home, you're actually able to collaborate among your peers more easily virtually through things like Skype or webinars and things like that. So I think that there's that gap there where employers really aren't seeing that collaboration, but it does exist. So where employees work impacts the talent acquisition and retention as well. So again, a common theme that we've been seeing is how do you attract employees, but then again, how do you retain the talent that you want in your workplace, right? So what we're seeing is that about 70% of employers agree that the physical workplace actually drives in employees in the first place. But what we're seeing from the employee side of things is that having the option and flexibility to work off-site is what's going to allow them to retain that talent at the employer group. So again, common theme we've been seeing is that employees want flexibility. So what we're seeing here is that 65% of employees agree that it's important, that the ability to work from home is important when making the initial decision to join an employer group. So that 65% is showing us the recruitment. But then the 68% is showing us the retention, because it's saying that the ability to work from home, 68% of employees say increases their loyalty to an employer group. That's a huge number.
And I would just say that echoes what we talked about earlier with the trust for the employee, between the employee and the employer. By allowing them to work at home, there's a little bit more trust, and then they're able to get on the same page and they feel more valued.
Absolutely. So we're going to end today by talking about how employees are defining the word career in today's workforce. So we're living in an era of a blended workforce, as Todd talked about, with all of the different generations. We're working in a very diverse workforce, so we have to fit to their needs. So how are employees defining the word career today? Gone are the days of the career being a 9-to-5 job, Monday to Friday. We're bringing it home with us. And a career today is what people are wanting to be passionate about. So 43% of people who were surveyed in this survey say that they define career as being something that they're passionate about. So they don't define career as being a job, they define it as being a passion. And so going back to Todd saying that they want that trust with their employer, they want to feel the passion, they want to be aligned in their values, and they want to have a career with an employer and not just a job. So how do employees find success and fulfillment in their careers? Todd alluded to this, but they are looking to develop their professional skills. So if an employer group is willing to provide them with the opportunity to grow in their career and develop their training skills, that's something that is going to attract those employees and retain the talent that you want, and even grow that talent over the years. So 74% of employees who were surveyed actually said that they would increase their loyalty to an employer group if they were providing them with career development opportunities. So we've talked a lot about themes today. So we've talked about the sense that employees want flexibility, they want the opportunity to grow within their careers, and we talked about what they've defined as a career. But I think when we take a step back and start with what we talked about at the beginning, which were those 3 macro trends that we're seeing. So one is the fact that we have a multi-generational workforce today, and we need to be able to account for the differing needs that comes with that. Another is the fact that we are living in a gig economy, and we need to figure out ways in order to not only attract those employees, because they are being attracted to the employer groups. It's just now a matter of how do we retain the talent that we want. And then finally, we have employees who are looking for wider range of benefits and how are they being communicated, because we want to make sure that they are being able to make the empowered decision and know what they're getting out of their benefits. Todd, I'll pass it back to you. Do you have anything else to add?
I would just wrap up with, we did bring a couple trend studies. We will place them in the back, so if you want to grab those, that'll have more in-depth on some of the studies, and obviously we can send more to Unland or we can mail them to you as well. We just didn't want to take the whole shipment from the office. And then I would open it up if there's any questions or any comments with agree, disagree, as of kind of what we touched on. Are you seeing this? And I'd open it up with that. And if nobody's got comments, then I guess we'll wrap it up and turn it back over to Bill.
Thanks again, guys, for your time today.